Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's you behind the camera and I appreciate that you're here with me today. So today we have the Tiggo 8 Pro and the Haval H6 in one room and we want to compare them. Funny enough, when the Tiggo 8 Pro came, I was like, you know what, they came with something that is not going to be comparable to Haval, because obviously when we did the Tiggo 4 Pro, everyone just needed to know like how is it compared to the Julian and so on. And I was like, this time around we're going to compare it to other 7-seaters like your Kia Sorento, Mercedes GLB, you know, Hyundai Santa Fe, like Peugeot 5008. But nah, people were like, how does it fare compared to the H6? It makes sense, of course, because obviously the relation price point, you know, these two cars are coming from brands that are coming from China, which are trying to reshape how we're looking at China in South Africa. So I totally understand why we need to compare the two. So then, yeah, without further ado, then let's get into it. So let's start with subjective matters, because these are the areas that we might argue to say which one is looking nice and so on. And for me, I think I need to start with the one that came first, of course, because this is the H6. When it came just after I've seen the Julian. If you watched my Julian review, you would see that I did mention before even seeing the H6 that I feel like it's a little bit overcooked. The H6, however, wow, it blew me away. I don't want to lie. In terms of the design, I think it was just so amazing to see this car. The minimalistic design, like the effort was put into summarizing what matters in the design. You know, Phil Simmons, the same person who designed the Land Rover Velar, is the one who designed this car. And you can see that, because I don't think he likes complicating things. Simple, straightforward, and you know, it comes out looking amazing. Going inside as well, I found that, yeah, wow, the use of screens, the way it is, you know, the instrument cluster one, it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but the way it's plugged in the dash, you know, everything, I think it's so minimal use of the buttons as well. It's plush in the way it looks, and that's the thing that for me, it captured me in a way that's not complicated. It does touch the right buttons, you know, in my eyes, man. So yeah, that's the thing that I enjoyed with that. Fast forward to 2022, we got the Tiggo 8 Pro, and you could tell that I love simplicity. Simplicity prevails in my world. That's why I love the H6. Looking at the Tiggo 8 Pro compared to the H6 is not as simple. There's some work that was done. There's more lines that I could say are incorporated in the body. But no, I love it. I think if I have to pick based on design, I would conclude right now, I'll take the Tiggo, because wow, they just managed to capture everything right. I don't feel it's overcooked. They've done it right. Like the use of chrome, these diamond beads that are in the grille, you know, the DRLs, the J's that are coming inside. When I'm looking at it, it's just a beautiful looking car. Side profile as well, I can't complain. Looking at the chrome that is just on top of the windows, you know, coming down as well. Looking at the chrome, looking at the back, you know, the H6 has this amazing long strip like LED, but still I don't find it to be as beautiful as the Tiggo 8. When you come inside as well, wow, this two-tone is just bringing life into this car. I'm looking at the flat bottom steering wheel, the way the screens are incorporated, the three of them in the dash, you know, there's a lot of use of piano black on the center console, but it doesn't bother me that much because it's blending well with the screens. When you're using a lot of screens, piano black, I find it to be doing a great job. You turn back, look at the seats, you know, the way they're designed, the headrests, yeah, okay, you can tell. Based on the design, I'd definitely pick the Tiggo. Okay, now let's talk about things that are not so subjective. They might not necessarily be facts. Okay, some of them will be facts, but they won't be as subjective as obviously looks and so on. And okay, let's start with the quality of materials. You know, the quality of materials for me, honestly, these cars are so similar. You might end up thinking they got the same supplier when it comes to the materials. I mean, I'm talking about the metallic stuff, like the chrome stuff. I'm talking about the leather. I'm talking about the piano black that is incorporated, plastics that are used, when you're closing the doors and so on, the sounds that they're making. I found them to be like almost similar in terms of quality. So I really can't say the other one is better than the other one when it comes to that. Unless if you have a different view, we can talk in the comments based on what you've seen with the two cars, if you've been inside of them, of course. Yep. Looking at tech and gimmicks, there's quite a balance when it comes to the two cars. They can cancel each other out, actually. If this was a boxing ring, there are things that Haval can bring and there are things that Chery can bring in order to win. But I find them to be a little bit balanced and not necessarily off, because the two of them have a necessary tech that you probably pay a lot of money for in other manufacturers that are more established, like the 360-degree cameras, looking at like wireless charging, adaptive cruise controls, auto lift gates. These things are there in the top spec ones usually. Like for the Haval, it will be the Super Lux, and then for the Chery, you'll find like almost everything, of course, in the executive as well. So when I'm looking at the stuff that maybe Chery can say we're going to shine about, you're thinking, okay, there's a voice command that is working amazingly well. I think it will punch Haval on the face with that voice command. The remote start function. They have like the intelligent high beam control, which I didn't see in the Haval, where you don't necessarily have to adjust the brightness of the lights. When you're doing the bright, it can automatically just take it down so that you don't dazzle other drivers. When you're opening the doors as well, it can tell you if there's something that is coming so that you don't end up being hit on the door. So these are the things that I think it's edging the Haval on. But the Haval will also retain the jabs. When it comes to their adaptive cruise control, it incorporates the lane keeping assist, and then it keeps you in lane so that you don't necessarily lose like sight of where you're going. If you are going to go over the lane, it can bring you back in, which Chery is just warning you that you're going over the lane, but not necessarily bringing you back in. It has heated front seats, which I think the Chery has on the driver, but I didn't find it in the controls when I was checking around. And then of course Haval has the pedal shifters, and then the Chery doesn't have. So these are the kind of things that are just nice to have. It's not necessarily that they are necessary for you to have, but it's nice to have. That's what I'm saying. Between the two of them, when it comes to the tech, both cars are actually packed with the necessary tech that you need. Now, practicality. I mean, on face value, it's an easy pick for the Chery because it can take 7 people, and the Haval can't really take 7 people, right? So for me, whether you want to carry 7 people or not, it's always better to have an option. So for that one, I think it's an easy one. Looking at the boot space as well, when the Haval, I think it has close to 600 liters of boot space, which is a lot. When I looked at it, I was like, wow, because Haval used to give like the boot space that is not as deep and not as, like, it couldn't pack as much. But now they went all out with the H6. But get to the Chery, you take those seats down, you make it a 5-seater, and you get close to 900 liters, you realize that no, practicality wise, there's not a lot of cars which are going to win compared to the Chery, actually, the Tiggo 8 Pro in this case, let me be specific. Dimensions wise, it's getting a little bit interesting because the Haval is not far off from the Chery, regardless of the Chery being a 7-seater. The Chery is like 4.72 meters long, and the Haval is like 4.653. So that's something that I think it shows, especially with the wheelbase, because the Haval's wheelbase is longer than the Chery. It's not that far off, maybe just around what, 30 millimeters longer, but it's something. Just that the Chery has an advantage that you can push the seats, you can slide them forward and backwards in order to accommodate for more people that are in the car if you're carrying 7 and so on. Looking at the ride height, they're more or less the same. I don't think you're going to suffer unless if you're just above 2 meters, which is not a lot of people, of course. And then the width, looking at the cars, the Haval again, it's winning that one. So it's going to bring you much more comfort because it's wider than the Chery. So when people are sitting at the back, they won't find themselves like uncomfortable in touching each other and so on. So when it comes to that, I think it's just a funny one, but at the end of the day, there's no way you're going to beat a car that can carry 7 on the road legally, because then you can travel with more people, right? So that one is an easy one for the Chery. Now, let's talk performance and how the two cars drive, right? The Haval is coming with a 2-liter engine, turbocharged 150 kilowatts, 320 Newton meters of torque. And the Chery is coming with a 1.6 liter, again turbocharged, 145 kilowatts, 290 Newton meters of torque. And this is where you're starting to see some form of a separation in terms of performance. The numbers on paper, fortunately, they do not lie. Because that H6, when you're driving it, you can really feel that this thing is moving. I mean, if you're just starting from the traffic light trying to pull it, sometimes when you're driving the forward-wheel drive one, you can feel that it's like almost struggling to put all the power down at once. That's why I even suggested to some that, you know what, maybe you need to get a all-wheel drive if you like driving the car spiritedly and doing like fast pulls from the traffic light and so on, because that car goes. The power in there is amazing. Even from some car enthusiasts who have been driving like German cars and so on, I think some of them were even shocked that that car is that fast. That's why it's not going to be easy for the Chery, because when you're in the Chery, you can feel that, you know, when you feel that the engine is moving a big car. You know, these two cars then, they weigh around 1.6 tons. You know, the Haval, the all-wheel drive ones, actually they're above 1.6, just above 1.6, and the Chery is just close to 1.6 at around late 1.5 tons. So you can feel the difference in the two. It's just clear. If someone says it's not, I don't know, maybe I was driving in an area where the airspeed was different or whatever, because I don't know the technical side of all those things, but the Chery felt like it's working way harder than the Haval when it comes to that. And now when it comes to the drive itself, in the Chery, you find bumpy roads, you find like the way it's handling like the bumpy roads, it's quite, you won't be left astonished with the level of comfort that is in there. You would feel that it's comfortable, especially at that price point of like 550. You will get that, okay, you know what, this car is comfortable. But when you start thinking about the H6, which is almost as well at the same price, just below actually the top spec and so on, wow, that is something else. I really can put it with a lot of expensive cars and it will come out tops as well, because the way that suspension is, it's, you know, both of them, they have McPherson in front and multi-links at the back, independent. But still, I find the H6 to be much better. I don't know, because the H6 that I drove, funny enough, didn't even have different like tire profile whatsoever. It was sitting on the 18 inches. The profile, I don't remember if it's that different to the Chery, but both of them, they don't necessarily have like low profile tires. So the H6 suspension is just a little bit better, and that little bit contributes a lot to how much comfortable it feels, because it's just taking the bumps so nicely on the road that you don't feel like you are in a $500,000 car basically. So that's this one thing that I think it's working against the Chery when it comes to taking on the bumps. It's probably owed to the dimensions as well, because the Chery is stretched to be like a 7-seater and the Haval is not. I think that's also contributing, because again, when you are in the Chery, the wind noise and the road noise is much more than when you are in the H6. That's something that I've experienced as well when I'm comparing the two cars. Then when you're talking about the transmission, they both have 7-speed DCT gearboxes. I really didn't find them to be that much different. Unfortunately for the Chery as well, the smaller engine means then if you don't have as much power, it's going to feel like the transmission is pulling much more and it's working much harder than actually when you have much more power in the H6, and then it feels a little bit smoother. I think that was mainly the difference. But we can't close this performance and drive on without talking about the fuel consumption of the two cars, because it's a little bit of a touchy subject to consumers. Fuel consumption lately is something that's been in the minds of everyone, and when it comes to the Chery and the Haval, some people are saying they're chowing a lot. But for me, I found the two cars to be almost similar when it comes to the fuel consumption, just ranging around 9 and 10.5 depending on how hard you are on the foot. And the cars were empty, because the more you pack the car, the more the fuel consumption, of course. And that's why I think maybe there might be a difference at a later stage, because the Haval has a much more powerful engine. It might be able to handle more luggage inside the car and be able to move the car smoother than the Tiggo in this case, but I don't find it to be that much far off. So you're probably going to be ranging just between 8 over the long term and probably 11 depending on how hard, because the harder you go, of course, they're not going to forgive you. So when it comes to that, I think they are more or less matched when it comes to fuel consumption, really. And then the safety. Whew. You know, the moment you start talking about Chinese products, you end up with a lot of people who are not trustworthy of whatever safety elements that may come with them. And I see this a lot from the streets. And honestly, the people from the streets are the ones that are buying these cars. So I would understand why people are skeptical because of the history of Chinese products in the country, especially when it comes to cars. But I'm glad to report that for the H6, they did just recently, they did NCAP rating, which they got a 5-star, and that's an amazing thing. I think it puts a lot of pressure off Haval. And when it comes to the Tiggo 8 Pro, I couldn't find NCAP rating. I understand that the Tiggo 8, not the Tiggo 8 Pro, was done in the CNCAP and it got the 5-star. CNCAP is the Chinese NCAP, and then the NCAP that I just mentioned right now, it's a NCAP basically. It's Australian. We have global, we have European. You know, there's quite a number of NCAP agencies, I should call them that are doing the safety ratings. In this time for the Tiggo, we don't have the Tiggo 4 Pros one, but we do have the Tiggo 8 one. And if they are based on the same platform, it's probably just going to be hyperlink, but I can't necessarily say that because it wasn't done on the Tiggo 8 Pro specifically. Then when it comes to everything else, they do have like advanced tech like collision warnings, traffic sign recognitions, you know, roll stability controls, rear cross traffic alert, lane departure warnings. They do have those nice things. Both come with 6 airbags. I believe then that will put you at ease in terms of the safety element when it comes to your family. I think because the Tiggo 8 Pro doesn't necessarily have, some might be skeptical, but it gives me a little bit confidence because the Tiggo 8 itself that we don't necessarily have in the country was done. Okay, let's look at pricing, right? I think this is one area that is drawing a lot of people to Chery and Haval because we get a sense that you're getting more value for money, and that's always a good thing when value is more than the price, of course, what they're asking from you. And looking at the Haval, they have more variants in the model lineup, which like they have, I think 4, which is the premium, luxury all-wheel drive, and then you get the super lux. Then the pricing around this starts from around 432k, and then it ends at around 530k, somewhere there. So the model lineup, it's spread like 100,000 in between, but you get a lot of things in between as well, even from the lower spec. And then the Chery, you get the distinctive and executive. In this case, you only get to pay less than 500,000 at around 497 for the distinctive, and then just less than 550 for the top spec with all the bells and whistles. The prices, I think they're not far off from each other in that sense, which is like a good thing for the competition. And yeah, I think between the two, it's going to be very interesting to see which one people pick. It's just going to depend, of course, in what people want and the preference, obviously, in terms of looks. And another area that people are worried about when it comes to these cars is, of course, is the after service and availability of parts and so on. Let me start with parts, actually, because parts are something very tricky right now. It's not easy for me to comment on them, because when you're thinking, it's not only the new models within the brands or the new brands that are suffering when it comes to cars. Supply chain is a problem across the world currently. I owe to COVID-19 and other matters that affected supply chain as a whole. It's quite tricky right now to get parts right away. You can go to a very established brand which is selling a lot of cars and you won't even find parts for the next 3 weeks or even a month or so. It's very much possible right now. Now, when it comes to the after service and so on, I looked at the number of dealerships that Haval has across the country. I saw that they have more than 60 now. They've been here for like almost 5 years now. That is a good thing, because then you can be able to just access them wherever you are in the country. And then Chery currently, I counted more than 20. I don't know if they've already exceeded the 30, because initially they announced that they will be getting 30 and then they're going to increase going forward. I don't doubt that based on the way things are going, we're going to be seeing more dealerships. So you can have like support from both sides. I don't doubt that the dealerships are going to be available in future for both of them. So for that one, I can't separate the two when it comes to that for now. Of course, Chery is still pretty new. It just came last year, but you can see already that they are intending on being here for long, and that is a good thing because they are bringing more models. Tiggo 7 Pro is coming very soon, and I'm very excited because I need to check that out as well. Stick to the channel so that you can be able to see that review as well. And then when it comes to the service plan and warranties and so on, service plan is the same, 5 years, 60,000 for both cars. And then when it comes to the warranty, that's where the Chery is winning, because you get the 5 year, like what, 150 at Chery at standard, and then you get the 5 year 100 at Haval. But with Chery, you know, the world is blown away with their engine warranty that you're getting for the first owner only. If you keep the car for 10 years, you will have the engine warranty up to 1 million kilometers. I mean, that's something that you know for sure that not a lot of people are going to be giving you anywhere else in the world. Now, to close this boxing match, I'd say, you know what, it's not an easy this or that one that you're going to be picking actually, because I think they both come in a different way and they give you different things. Practicality is something that you really can't say you are discrediting when you're buying a car. That is one of the biggest decisions, and I think that's where Chery is going to just win. Design element is subjective. I still think Chery can win that one. But if you're looking for more performance and better comfort overall, even at a level of much more expensive cars, H6 is definitely going to do for you. So I think for me, I can't really pick this one or that one, but it's totally going to depend what is it that you are looking for between the two cars. As I said, I will close it by practicality and performance. Between the two cars, Chery will take the practicality, Haval H6 will take the performance and comfort. With that said, wow, thank you very much for being here with me. Till next time, I am out.